This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Mayor Ann Velisis, and I welcome everybody to join us for this session of the Common Council of the City of Port Orford on Thursday, April 16th at 5:30. We're going to begin with the roll call. Councilor Rask. Here. Councilor Lovendall. Here. Councilor Webb.
Webb present.
Councilor Brennan. Here. Councilor Burns.
Here.
Councilor Pogwiz.
Tim here.
And let the record show, we also have Public Works Director John Isidore, City Administrator Melissa Ratcliffe, and Recorder Joseph Harrison with us. I join you all in rising to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So I wanted to begin here with additions to the agenda of adding an item, which I somehow thought was on, but did not end up on, which is a discussion for the full council about the police levy. So we'll make that item A8B. Okay. Does anybody else have any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on. The next item on the agenda is a time for citizen concerns. We have anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing no one here, we'll ask online if there's anybody that would like to express a concern.
Anyone online, raise their hands or type anything in the messages.
Okay.
Do not believe we have any citizens online who wish to turn.
Okay, then we will move on to the consent calendar, which includes minutes for the March 19th meeting, as well as some appointments for our Parks Commission and our Budget Committee.
So move to approve. City calendar.
I second it.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion on these items?
Yeah, so does that have the special meeting minutes do we have a special meeting minutes on this too? Or was this just a regular?
What was this? I don't think we've had another.
We didn't, okay.
think
I was
the one
trying to remember.
before that.
That was the last month. I was sick last month, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, are you?
I was there by phone, but I just, yeah. Okay, so my motion is to approve.
Any other, so we've got first, second, any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Counselor Brennan?
Yes.
Counselor Burns?
Yes.
Counselor Pogwiz?
Abstain?
Counselor Rask?
Yes.
Counselor Lovendall?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Webb, yes.
Okay. We don't have any presentations this evening, so we will move along to the departmental reports. And the first one up is Melissa.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just making sure everyone was able to do their ethics filing.
Did we miss the applications for?
That was part of the consent
Part of the
calendar.
consent calendar.
Okay, very
Was
good.
that,
Yeah, I just missed that.
We could name them maybe.
would
Yeah.
you like to go?
Well, it's just that, I could vote for that, but I wasn't going to vote for the minutes.
Okay,
because
gotcha.
I wasn't here last week. But anyway, I'm fine with it. It's very good. Wonderful that we have.
Yeah, we appreciate the volunteer.
Yeah, let's name them. You want to name them? I mean, just,
Yep.
Mr. Golden is here.
Yeah, let's raise your hand, Mr. Golden. Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for volunteering.
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Then we have Robert Schaefer. I think some of you guys have met him. I know he helped with some cleanup that I got a chance to meet him at. Yeah, what seemed like a great potential.
He came to our last meeting.
Great. And then Carrie Fisher, I've not met, but Counselor Burns, you've met her, right? Yeah. Melissa?
Yeah.
Excellent. Just moving along at warp speed here, Tim. Okay,
Mayor, can you speak into the microphone?
yes, thank you. Can you please?
Yeah, everyone needs
uh,
to speak into the
Sorry.
microphones because it helps people who are on the.
Sorry for the delay, Melissa.
No worries.
Okay.
Melissa?
Again, just making sure that everyone was able to file their ethics filing just fine. Excellent. Good. I know that a couple of meetings ago, we had discussed utility and court collections information, and people were interested in me looking into the possibility of working with a collections agency. And so I did that. I put information out to multiple of them. I asked the Kaitolas, who are our new financial people, also had Marissa talk to a person in Brookings about a couple of different places. And the agency that has given me the most information and seems reasonable was called the Western Agency, and it used to be the Western Collections Bureau. They had to change their name because apparently there was a rule that they couldn't put the word collections in the name anymore. So anyway, so I've spoken to someone there. Interesting thing is that we would need to have our paperwork on our new service agreements or things like that, have information, and we have verbiage from Reedsport, actually, they have it in there, that says that the person understands that they could be turned into collections and that they would incur any fees that would come along with that. Or if we do have someone who is needing to be turned into collections, if we didn't have that, I would send a letter that has that information on it. And then if the citation, say, was $100, they would add a 25% fee, the collection agency would. So they would collect $125. They would retain the 25 and we would retain the full 100.
Oh, wow.
So that is one of the benefits of doing that. And then if there are debts that have been there for a long time, the interest that would be charged, basically, they would split, the company would split that interest 50% to them, 50% to us. And so it doesn't cost us anything to do this. They just reap some of those.
Who would assign that value, that percentage? We don't want to charge 39% or something to somebody that can't pay their bill.
That is the collection agency's cost is 25% of the full amount.
The interest.
You mentioned the interest.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. I haven't gotten information back from them of every single piece of the specifics. I don't know that. Because again, I wanted to just let you know where I was in this process with that. So I'm still waiting for other agencies to contact me back, but this was the one that has reached out.
That's a very good question, Brett.
So what
And-
is the interest percentage?
9%.
Who decides what the interest rate is?
Is that what it is?
And this, just for clarification, this is for like vehicle traffic citations as well as for failure to
Utility.
pay utility bills.
Correct.
So those are primarily the two things, or other types of fines. I guess there would be other types of failure to pay, other types of fines.
Yeah, if
that
it
we
went
don't-
through perhaps like a ordinance violation, then the person didn't pay their fine, but that would technically be kind of
So,
handled like a citation.
so after a person doesn't pay for so long,
Mhm.
then you have to take them to small claims court. And is that what they would do for us, or are we going to be charged with that?
So what I've seen that had happened at one point, I think I've seen in the historical records of other city administrators that there were lien paperwork that people could put on properties and things like that. I haven't done that because I think rules have changed since Terry was here.
What happens is there's mandatory arbitration. And the judge will make you sit down and try to work something out. If not, then they will lien on your bank account, whatever it is. I just wondering who would be that person? Because if they never pay and they don't, and then it comes back to us and we don't have the capacity to do it or something like that, then it's a whole bunch of us being meanies for nothing, you know? You know what I mean? I'm just saying, it would be good to know who handles it from that point, if they're going to continue to pursue that, or if they would just wash their hands of it at that point of court of the subpoena and stuff like that.
And I'd like to understand, it sounds like there's almost two tracks. There's sort of like the collections track, but then there's like
A
this
lien track.
lien
And then
track.
there's
Or
also, there is a judgment that you can go after that is more of a small claim situation. And I looked into that with a couple of specific accounts that have been, particularly utilities, very high. And you have to know where the person is, and then we would have to hire someone to serve them, to give them the information. And then if they didn't respond to that, then we would go to the county for
You
small
serve 'em
claims.
And you serve them, and then that's the service to go to court.
Right.
And generally speaking, the judge won't see it until there's arbitration. There's like mandatory arbitration. But if you don't show up to court, then we win, then the city would win automatically,
Mhm.
right? You can, what happens though is I'd be interested in seeing if this group goes, there's a thing called phantom debt or ghost debt, and it's over 7 years. If there's which you wouldn't actually owe, but you're scared to go to court or whatever, you don't. And then I don't want to be bullies about it and break the rules, break the law, because you're breaking the law. You're breaking the law when you sue somebody, but nobody knows that unless you countersue. That's the way it goes. I've been there. I know what's going on.
I don't understand what you
I
just said.
don't, yeah.
Yeah, so simple terms. Usually you don't, if you can say it in less than a sentence, you don't know it well enough. After 7 years, you don't owe that debt's wiped clean. That's right. When something falls off, that's the way it works. But this group could still sue you, take you to court and sue you on this ghost debt, phantom debt, and you could lose that. And then they get 10 years after that to collect that. And then we might not even be part of that, of winning that lawsuit.
This council, you mean?
The city.
Okay.
Because it could be just them suing the individual for that lawsuit. It's not legal, but it happens every single day. It does. It happens every single day.
So what I've done is, so in looking at this multiple sort of pronged approach, what I have seen sitting in the office is that we haven't gone, if people pay their bill, then great, and that's awesome. And then there's been basically nothing that has happened beyond that. So this group asked for me to kind of look into this to kind of find out how we would go about doing this. So I contacted this group, multiple agencies, but this is the one that's gotten back to me with reasonable information, it seems. 2, I've sent information to our lawyer about how do I go about this lien process for a situation if, like, we know a property might be up for sale, or we want to put this on here. So if there's a lien search, if that person tries to sell that property, then the city would be one of the first ones to be paid out of the proceeds they get from selling the property. Those are the 2 prongs that I'm looking at to try and move something forward, because we have.
The devil's in the details with stuff like this, and that's that's happened. We've seen the devil come out in the details on several things that we've done over the years.
But that's why I'm giving you an update of where I am on this, and I
that's
don't
great
have
thing.
the end yet. So I'm just telling you where I am.
Just keep digging. I think that's a fine idea. I just wanted to be sure that we could end up losing if we don't, because anybody could sue anybody for anything. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the other things, just to underscore the reason for doing this, is that we've ended up with this credits in our budget account. So it looks like we have way more money than we actually have or something. And so when we go for grants and things like that, it's kind of like people are asking, well, what about this money that's due to you? Haven't you tried to? So it's like part of what we have to do to run a tighter ship and to get our finances into order is figuring out what's our policy for debts that are unpaid and stuff. So
It basically, on the reports, it shows that we are owed this amount of money
just bad
And
debt.
it's just bad debt, but you have to have that written off and you have to do that. And,
I had never heard the terms credits before, so I
okay, yeah.
didn't know if that was a new program or something.
No, I don't think it's a new program, but we haven't written off a lot of that debt in a very long time. And so it just keeps building of what is owed to us that looks like it's most of it, that we should be collecting, but we haven't. People haven't paid it. So that's why, again, I think council asked me to look into this to try to figure out how do we collect some of this so that we aren't running behind.
Do we have a number for the bad debt that's out there?
Not off the top of
Round
my head.
figure, top figure, just curious.
Is,
I don't, not off the top of my head, I don't have it.
I wonder if it's a budget line item. I don't know, but that's a very good question, John. Maybe we'll get to, we can definitely be looking at that during the budget period.
Mhm.
But it was, a surprising amount.
We're still on the hook, though. Even if we did collect that $100 imaginary fee you were talking about, we still owe the state a portion of that, correct?
Well, on a citation,
On a citation.
well, it would be, the $100 would be what we're owed plus the $16 that the county gets and the $50 that the state gets, because that would be what so if a ticket's written, usually right now they're $165. $99 is owed to the city.
Right.
$16 is owed to the county, $50 is owed to whatever. So that would be the basic, what the police officer usually writes on the citation, for example. And so that's already baked into what
Okay.
we're not collecting.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to
Yeah,
be sure that
be
we're aware we have to pay those
Correct, yeah.
agencies. Very
Mhm.
good.
Yep.
Thank you.
One more thing, and that was, is when a renter comes and then gets water service,
Mhm.
is the owner ultimately responsible?
Ultimately, yes.
Okay,
So we collect a $200 deposit, $100 for water, $100 for sewer. But then if we get to a point where that tenant is not paying it, then yes, then because we have, if it's a renter, we have a owner-tenant agreement that the owner signs so that we have some second level and second layer
That's
of,
not the case. It
Yep.
would definitely make it easier.
Yeah.
Tougher to put a lien on something for a renter.
for sure, for sure, yeah. Anything else on that?
Thank you for doing the research,
Yeah,
Melissa.
you're welcome. I'm trying.
It's one of those things that's been on the back burner for a while, so I'm glad
Mhm.
you were able to get to thinking about it.
Negotiations are moving forward, so that's good. Budget calendar, working with the Kaitolas. Right now, we have set that the first budget meeting will be May 21st, which is before our next meeting here. We set 4 PM. And so I wanted to ask that because that will be in front of our regular council meeting. Do we want to keep all of the meetings, the budget meetings at 4 PM so that it's just the same time all the way across? And tentatively, I have it to the Kaitolas also, but May 21st, the next Thursday is May 28th was my thought for the second one. And then the third one would be that next Tuesday, which is June 2nd. That then gives us time that before the June city council meeting so that we can have it all wrapped up, all done, and can do the final proclamation and resolutions at that point. So are people okay with 4 PM?
I think having it consistent
Okay.
is easier for us.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 2nd, June 2nd. Hopefully we won't need that third meeting, but you never know.
I think last year we took 3 meetings
think we did
and
take 3.
we do have new financial people this time, so I could imagine it taking the full meetings. Or it would be possibly a benefit for us to, take the full meetings so everybody really can dig in.
Joseph?
Just another thing to keep in mind, since that first meeting would only be an hour and a half, last year took 3 meetings, all of which were about 2 hours long. Well, and then there was one other super quick one right before the last city council meeting, but that was like less than 5 minutes, so I wouldn't count it.
So does that mean we should move it to, there's only one of them that's before the council meeting, right?
That is correct.
Right, May 21st.
Uh-huh.
It would be from 4 to 5:30, and then we could take the 2 hours for each of those between 4 and 6.
Yeah.
On the other ones if
Can we
needed be.
go longer than 2 hours on one of those if we had to, or are those the kind of meetings where we have to close it in 2 hours?
You can, because that is a meeting with both the city council and the budget committee, so you would just have to vote to extend the meeting.
Okay.
But last year we tried to keep them to 2 hours because after that point, it gets a little hard to keep focused on the meeting.
Absolutely.
And the budget is critical enough that it's better to schedule more meetings at a shorter time than
Yep.
fewer longer meetings.
Without anybody else's objection, I think this sounds like a good proposal, Melissa.
Okay,
Is everybody else okay with those?
I'm okay with those 3 dates. Beyond that, I may not be.
right.
So.
Okay. Audit update, we're hoping to have the audit done at the end of this month. I will say kudos to Dina and Joseph and Marissa, the whole crew working together with the Kaitolas to get all the information that they need. And I just want to call out too, so I've been here 2 years, and when I started, we finished the 2022 audit. We've done the 2023, 2024. We're now finishing the 2025. So we've done 4 audits in 2 years, trying to catch up and do this. So this has been a really big lift, I will just say. And so we're now, once we get done with this one, we'll be back on track to hopefully do the current 2026 fiscal year this fall, have it wrapped up by the end of December so that we can have it ready to go on the normal pace, on the normal schedule that we, again, normally would do. But it's been a bit of a slog on that, trying to do all of those. But we're now, once we get done with this, we'll be caught up. So I'm happy about that.
And the tremendous benefit of that would be just to spread all of that work out over the whole year. So that you are working on the audits in the fall and the budget in the spring, as opposed to just everything all the
Being
time.
constantly being audited, yes, you're right. They're professional pickers of nits, and that is by definition not great.
Annoying. Yeah.
Annoying, yes. And then the last thing I'll highlight is the signs for Buffington Park. We had talked at the last one that we needed the signage based upon insurance and for that. And so John's ordered those, got them in process. And so we're taking care of that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Melissa? Okay, the next item is the mayor's report. And I put a lot of this into writing, but we have some big new information, a couple of new things, so I will highlight them. As you know, I've really been trying to line up our funding to fix our major water infrastructure matters. And the first things I've been really trying to focus on is the funding for dredging our reservoir and the funding for removing the failing culvert. And the reservoir dredging costs so much more that we have to do a budget amendment to make sure we can line that up. So there's just lots of pieces to making any of these changes. So we're working on that. But the really big news is it looks like we may be getting a full-on grant for the culvert removal. So that's about $225,000, which is fabulous, because if we get a 100% grant, it means we don't have to take on a loan, which, gives us more debt. So I'm super excited. What happened is the advisory body, this is the new ODFW Public Forest Accord grants that have to do with, forest management issues and fish and habitat. And of course, we have this failing culvert, so it's a great fit. It has one more step, which is the ODFW Commission has to approve it and all the recommendations on April 24th. So if everything goes well, we will get that grant, and that will be fabulous.
Can we court Chair Wall or?
We've been told, yes, we can.
Already?
Yes, we have.
Thank you.
But
Can we what?
can we mention it to the chair, who is a local person?
Oh.
I have.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, they've said you don't have to show up and lobby for it because it's a staff recommendation. But so anyway.
But that's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Werther's thing.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then the other really big news that's not even in my report that's very exciting is about 2 days ago, I got the news that the BRIC grants are back in play. And so we are back in the queue if we can jump through about 5 hoops. Uh, we have to reconfirm our eligibility in a couple of accounts because they've changed the criteria in some ways. And like one of the ways is, it's very technical, like they've changed a number percent in how they do their cost benefit analysis. So we're probably going to have to work with this consultant who helped us in the past to do it. But anyway, trying to line that up and we'll see what happens. So
remembering that that was to.
Oh, yes.
The BRIC grant was started out as, what was it, 70 million when the very first one iteration of it, then it was whittled back
we
to.
focused it down to 6.7 million for our leakiest lines and our meters. And I think there's about 8 lines, 7 or 8 lines that are in that list. So since we put that grant in, every other project we've done, there's been so much inflation, costs have increased. So I would not be surprised if, you know, instead of doing the full whatever 7 we propose, that it gets reduced, and or to make our cost benefit analysis work, we may have to make some project scope adjustments. But we can shrink to fit
Amen.
that project, and we could do 5 instead of 6, and that will make a difference for us.
Anything's moving ahead.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Hope it comes to fruition.
And one of the things that our engineer has said again and again, sometimes when we're meeting with the engineer, is that we have to do something about our leaky water lines because, and just to underscore, because when we get to John's water report, you'll see like our staff works so many hours on fixing lines and breaks and dealing with all those things that our budget for that, a lot of it goes to overtime, and we're just not getting ahead. We're falling behind the curve. So big grants like this one, where we actually have a relatively small match, we still have to come up with the match. Our engineer thinks is going to be like what can help us maybe get out of this spiral. So anyway, I'm excited with John, and we will do everything we
Yeah.
can to push it along. Okay.
So when
So
will you find out? On the 24th or?
no, the 24th is the grant for the culvert removal.
Oh,
And this BRIC grant is a little bit of a longer time period. We have to jump through all these hurdles, and they don't exactly know yet when the review period is. The agency that's reviewing it is FEMA. They still have all sorts of budgeting issues. And, you know, so our interface is with the Oregon Emergency Management Department, and they interface with FEMA. And like, I've just had so much good working relationships with the Oregon state agencies helping us. They are just like so willing to help us. And the OEM guy is just fabulous. I mean, when we did the grant last time, they hired this consultant for Texas to help us do what we needed. So they're super helpful. So I think they will do everything they can to help us, and we will do everything we can to help ourselves too by getting the numbers and various things we need. Okay, so moving along, finance. We got some sheets here given out to us right before the meeting.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us anything about this, Melissa?
Yeah, so basically we've asked the Kaitolas to give us as up to date, however, the caveat always. So when we have changed from our former finance person to now, our new people have ideas that are directly opposite of what the changes we were making last year. And so they're moving multiple things back to how we had done them before and aligning different pieces. In that, there were transfers between funds that were slated to be made, but because we were up in the air again, we didn't want to make those transfers based on the past finance directors or finance consultants' recommendations to then have the new people have different ideas, which they do, and then to have to undo all of that and rechange it. So the transfers that were supposed to go between the funds have not been made on these documents that you have. So everything's accounted for, everything's been done where it was. It just, those transfers haven't been changed. The big piece of that is the example of personnel. It used to be, and how it's going to be again, is that if 20% of John's personnel costs are from streets, then he would be budgeted 20% in streets. I might be 30% in water. So 30% of my wage and benefits and everything would have been put into the water account. What Ann Heath had us do was pull all of those dribs and drabs out of those other funds, put into the general fund. So you can just look at the line and say, oh, this is how much personnel costs are and what you see. In order to make that happen, those 20% and 30% should have been transferred from streets, from water, from sewer into the general fund to square it all out. Because again, that was up in the air. Everything has been left in those other funds. So the other funds look really fat and sassy. The personnel costs haven't been moved in that. The Kaitolas, our new people, said, we prefer to have it, and how they've done it in other places, we prefer to have it, the dribs and drabs into the other places. So it just goes into there and you just have a spreadsheet that has the personnel costs in it. And so there's not transfers. You basically do the transfers one time, do the charging one time when you're building your budget. They're out in those places. They automatically drop into there. There's less robbing Peter to pay Paul to change the things. So that's where we're going back to. So these numbers
work during the year.
Correct, because then do you pull them out monthly? Do you do it quarterly? Do you do it whatever? And so again, Dina wisely was like, I'm not going to make all these changes if the Kaitolas want it different than what we've done. So we're just going to leave it, which means this information is not accurate, because if you look on all of these that say transfers, they all say 0%, which means they're not done what they need to have done. So you can see the information as to what has been spent and what the actuals were and what were budgeted. However, when you're trying to look at those percentages down at the bottom to say, where is that? Those are inaccurate. The part this does tell you is that the revenues that we had tried to do are down. Our citation revenues are down. The revenues that we had for some of the fees, and again, getting what we had thought that was going to bring in for water or sewer. If people aren't paying their bills, going back to the first conversation we had, then those revenues are not listed here. So we are behind in our revenues. And as we just discussed, expenses are just fine, because they're higher than what sometimes we anticipated needing in our budgeting because of inflation right now. So we are holding in. Once we can get these transfers done, the way we're cleaning this up too is through the audit for the 24-25 budget. So our auditors are getting all of that cleaned up, like with our grants and where we are on all of those. And then as we do the supplemental budget for this year, which we always do right before the next budget comes out to clean everything up from this year, this will all be squared away. So we're just gonna have to make some decisions on here when we get to that point. Yes.
So if I'm reading this correctly, our current year property tax, we've collected 99%, which is fantastic.
And you're looking on the revenue side. Okay.
I'm
Because
sorry,
there's a revenues one, there's
No,
revenues
sorry, I'm
at the top, and there's
yeah.
expenses at the top. And so you got to be
Well, it
careful
says
which one.
99% under the general fund. Current year property tax.
Yeah.
Because I think usually we expect at least 3%, you know.
Right,
Mhm.
that's what they were
Mhm.
saying. You have to calculate 3%
Right.
not meeting
Not
it.
paying, right.
So you have to
Yeah,
get
so
it.
out of the 370 we thought we were going to get, we're at 366
Yeah.
through here. So that's good.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Really.
So we're
See
We-
what happens next year.
we are minding what we're trying to do and,
Yeah.
you know, being thoughtful about what we're replacing and what we're doing. And again, our biggest thing is personnel costs are what's, you know, expensive.
And generally also, even though since the numbers aren't accurate, it may not really be the case, but the revenues for 75% of the year are either all, I mean, nothing's
we haven't received a lot more, but except for in that case. But with the expenses, we also have not spent more than 75%. So we're kind of, at least that's.
But
Thank
again,
you.
those transfers haven't been done and we haven't had that. But these are up-to-date numbers as of March 31st. Dina got all that put together to make sure that we were as up-to-date as we can be with that. So
So we will
Pleasure to have you.
have these things correct going into the budget.
correct, all of this will be correct going into the budget, and we will have done the supplemental budget for this current year before we're finishing up for the 27 year to make sure everything's square.
Great. So we'll
of
have good
where we're-
numbers for the roll
Indeed.
carryover.
Indeed, yeah. And the Kaitolas have been lovely to work with. I just have to say that too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on, we will turn it over to Public Works Superintendent John Isidore, and we see this report that has red ink on the top, so,
That just helps me get my numbers where they need to go. So
okay. Doesn't help, helps freak
No,
us
there
out.
was
no.
the pressed mayor really wanted to have the numbers jump out at him. So
Okay.
I did that for Pat.
Okay,
Um,
I like it. Thank you. John.
They're about average. We're still running over 50% for lost or unaccounted water. So, some of it's meters, some of it's leaks, some of it's unmetered connections. I should have included, we got that meter that we got through that grant, and it's actually running on the inside of my water plant to take care of the unmetered water that runs our Kims and most of our unmetered 2-inch pipes and hoses. So it's running like 35 to 40 gallons a minute and more when we're mixing chemicals. So that would be an important number for me. I'll try to reset it and see if I can get a total, or I'll just calculate it off that number and kind of add that, because that's a big part of our loss is the water used down. Wastewater is still using a little bit more, and they should too, because we've got to get this, we got to get that sprayer line, and the cost of copper wires got really expensive. We've been trying to figure out the best, cheapest way to do it, but we're going to dive into that in wastewater. As far as the water plant, it's normal ops. We got, I think, pretty much all of the firehouse relit with LED lamps, changed out all the fluorescents. You can't buy them anymore. We started on City Hall. We got the inside of the water plant done, and we got about 90% of the shop out on the loop. We also got the new garage door finally put in, so we have a working bay again with a concrete floor. So that was kind of cool. That was quite a task for Nielsen. We had lots of leaks. Some of them aren't even listed on here because I hadn't done a report for a month or two. And so I was kind of trying to remember what I did, but we have a new requirement by the state to notify when we do a boil water notice, when we cause, effect, and repair, dates, times, and then when we return it to service and do the no longer boil water notice. And so it's taken me a lot of communication. So I just had to supply him with 2 years worth of leaks, which was a bit of a challenge. Joseph helped me out immensely, and we were able to capture most of that data. So every city's supposed to be doing it. Most of them don't, but something stirred him up. So we now have a full list, and what he's doing is he'll put it in our, what do you call it? mywater.org, and it's our plant number. And if you search it, you can see how many boil water notices we have. Public notices folder for the mywater.org. So anyway, that was interesting and new, and I wish I would have known about it because it took a lot of time and effort to get what we did, a couple of weeks getting it into a format that was acceptable by him. Other than that, water plant's rocking and rolling. We went through the wastewater plant with Civil West. A couple of young guys came down, and we created quite the list of stuff. So Ann reached out to them recently. We haven't heard back from them, at least I haven't. So I know they're working on it. It's a substantial list. There's a lot of stuff to try to put numbers to and put it in priority and stuff. So
That's with the $750,000.
right, that's that feasibility study. So I'll touch on that real quick too, because I had a conversation with Marlon here not too long ago, and I still need to talk to you more, but we'll do that when we have that meeting next week. But he wants to take the SIP, part of the SIP grant money to fund a feasibility study. So we do the same thing at water, so that we have the list of the filters and all that stuff as a priority, because otherwise funding agencies Bach. So,
Yeah, and we actually did that in one of the meetings that you weren't here when you were sick. We approved,
oh, good.
we had to request an amendment from Business Oregon for that grant to shift from doing a feasibility study for a secondary water source to doing the study for the drinking water or the water treatment plant filtration. So that's almost done. They had to run it up the flagpole and we're almost done with that.
Okay, that's great news. What else do I got? Well, you can read pretty much everything on here. So we had a plethora of issues with 3 of our oldest stations besides Idaho. But they were all on the same day. So we had 3 lift stations down and it was complete chaos for about 8 hours while we troubleshot and worked out the gremlins of the old electronics and whatnot. And leading up to budget season, Pinehurst and Lakeshore are both beyond their livability, and I need to get them budgeted because they're going to cause us serious problems. They're on the water and it's going to be bad. So on that same note, we had somebody vandalized the lift station on Arizona, and they climbed in and opened all the electrical panels, shut off the nice switch. I don't know how they didn't get electrocuted to death. And luckily a resident saw some water coming out of the top of a manhole. We responded, we were able to get the station back on after we got pictures and PD over there. But they basically went in and just shut everything down, left all the panels open. Quite suspicious. I don't even know what to say, but so that could have been a major deal for us. I mean, we're talking contamination in Garrison Lake, posting all over the city, all around the lake, every 100 feet, every 500 feet. But luckily we caught it with very little liquid on the ground. We were able to clean it up, spray it. So just note to self, if you see something, definitely reach out because we've had quite a bit of vandalism and prankster type stuff going on at the park lately. Yeah, and I'd like to thank Richard and his wife for being here because Lauren, sorry. These guys have done the best job I've seen at that park. It looks better than it's ever looked.
Yep.
And the pranksters,
Compliments about you too.
yeah, unbelievable.
Thank you
We
so much.
communicate daily. They're right by the shop. They're easy to talk to and they're just doing great work over there. So same note, just wanted to say thank you guys for doing what you do. But so we have got PD involved and we've set up some things. So hopefully we'll be able to take these guys down because I'm kind of suspect they might be the same people that shut down the Arizona lift station, but I can't prove it. But they've been giving PD some problems. So they're working on that.
We had that other vandalism or was that a water station?
The pump station.
Yeah, we
Pump
did. We
station
did.
a couple months ago, right? That's
We did.
just
up
such a
on
bummer because
25th.
these things are so expensive and it's for
Well,
the whole community.
Yeah, it's an act of terrorism when you mess with public infrastructure. I mean, you're talking about contaminating a lake that can make a lot of people sick. So I would hope the pursuit of finding the individuals is pretty high.
Yeah.
but-
Do you know, do we have any insurance like for that kind of thing or is it, I'm just wondering.
All the assets are insured. I'm not sure about if it's, I don't know. Honestly, I just know the assets are.
Yeah.
I have a trail cam. I brought mine in and I've sat it up over there so I could see, just in case they come back, I'll have a picture of it. So I thought I'd mention it. So it was on the books.
Sean, do those stations have any red lights or green lights or anything?
Yeah, and sirens when they overflow.
So what color is good? What color is bad? And
Red is always warning. I think there's one that has a blue light. Not quite sure why it's blue. Might have gotten broken. That's what they had. But if it's red and it's on, make a phone call for sure. Most of them have loud horns. So, and I always get calls when those go off. Idaho, Wyoming, Pinehurst has a light without a horn. Cold Run only has a horn, but there's 8 of them out there. So most people are, we usually get a call like rapidly when the light's red. And if it ain't PD, it's the guy that lives next door. So, but most of them have horns and you can't sleep through them. They're that loud. Sure.
Did you get the safe drink, or you don't have to boil anymore for the folks that are affected by that break on 12th Street? I had a citizen come to me and ask me,
Oh yeah, that was removed on the 8th.
he said he didn't get a notice.
Well, we might not have hand delivered one because we don't have the way everything's tied in from crisscross from this road to that road. We don't always know exactly home. So we blanket the area that we're sure of. And then Marissa takes addresses for us. So we know that we're on the right roads. And then we try to ask people, but if you stop and talk to everybody, we had 85 homes out on that one. And that was about 150,000 gallons, which is about 3 days worth of making water. And there's a lot of cost there, a huge amount of cost. And it broke at as I put in my pictures, did you guys get a copy of my thing? So you can see where it broke on a 4-inch. So we had to end up borrowing parts from Bandon to be able to get it back up. That's why we didn't get it up on Sunday. Yeah, that's our repair.
Well, I'll try to reach out to this person.
Yeah, it was on the internet and on the Facebook and on the network. And we tried to hand deliver, I think we hand delivered 85 notices. We tried to. Yeah. Yeah, it's important. That was the worst timing break ever, ever. But that's the way it works, right? Easter Eve, right? Anyway, so that's great to hear about the water lines because maybe we stopped fixing certain areas because most of them are always on the west side. I don't know why.
Number one.
So we had one Wednesday at Jackson and the church there. Community Faith, I think it is, the big one on the west side of the highway there. And actually it was kind of cool because Trice came down to replace their service line across their pavement. And they excavated or vacuumed out the meter and they found a leak. It was on their side, on the meter side. But at the same time, we had one on the back side on our side. So we went ahead and pulled it up. We had CC bring a pull truck over because it was right against the telephone pole and we were down about 4 feet. We didn't want it to fall over. So they braced a pole for us while we did the work. And it was a pretty simple repair on our side, but his side, somebody had used the wrong fitting back in the day. So we went ahead and since we're where we were and we just went ahead and fixed his side while we were there too. It was cheap. We had the parts. So we just yarded the whole thing. I redid it and put it back in. And so they're back up. Yeah, interesting week, but we've had 3 or 4 failures on the alum side, the piping in the water plant this week. And then we were off all day yesterday and part of this morning. And I got it back on about noon today before we were able to get back into production. And it's something that I need to talk to Aaron about because it's really red, orangey water coming in both creeks. And so it's coming from the watershed somewhere and you just can't treat it. And it was a color yesterday that I've never seen before. It was weird. But we pulled all 4 boards and flushed the dam out overnight and we were still at like 8 for turbidity, which we need to be down around 2 or 3. So we finally pulled the remaining board and let her drain down. And as it filled back up, it came down enough to where we could get back on. But then we got a big shot of air and that turned the plant up. So anyway, it was a long day. But we're running. We'll run 24 hours tonight. We were down to about 14.9, I think, 15, somewhere right in there. So, so we'll carry it through the night and in tomorrow. We should be able to pick back another 6 feet or so to get us back in the safe zone. But we do that quite frequently. But I mention it because I had to live through it today and yesterday. But just to keep it in the forethought of what we're fighting here, and it's just, I don't know.
Lose a little bit of sediment in the reservoir when you open the boards up like that?
I hope so. The water's so dirty you can't see it,
Oh, wow.
you know? And it really makes me wonder how we can do this all year long without any permitting. But yeah, we got to get a dredge permit because the water is going to be dirty in the creek. It just doesn't make sense. It's like that every time it rains, right? I mean, like you can't even see through it, but yet we got to go through 19 steps to get a dredging permit and keep the water under what, 2, I think, on the turbidity. It's ridiculous. But that we are where we are. I put down everything I knew of where we're at. We're going to have to do quite a bit of work to get the dredging thing set up so that we can get a tie-in for Hubbard's or Garrison Lake.
Did Melissa tell me you're working on the electric part of that? Cause that's one of those.
Electric isn't an issue if we're using the one we agreed to last year because it's 110. So it's not going to take a 440 conversion. So we're good there. It's just the biggest part's going to be cutting in valves and doing a tie-in so that we can get a pipe over to Garrison Lake and then out into the pond. We did recently, not too long ago, maybe a month or so, we tore down the old shack. Well, it blew down. So we hauled it off and then we cut up all the piping and got everything off that slab. The only thing we couldn't remove is that ugly silver tank you see, because it's welded inside the tank on a flange with a flange underneath the slab. And we didn't want to pull the slab because the
Where are
old-
you talking about?
at Pinehurst.
Okay.
So that line going to the plant is also attached to that slab, which still runs to the plant. So we just left the slab in the tank there. So anybody says anything, at some point we'll try to cut the tank off the flange and see if we can actually get it blind flanged. But we did blind flange the one running to the plant in case we ever decide we need it. So that's where we're at. Yeah, well, it's old. It was it's OHA was down when we were doing an evaluation of the filters and they went and looked at it because I wasn't at the shop yet. And they said, what the heck is that thing? Because it was a pressure vessel with a vacuum pumps so that it would pressurize the tank. The tank's only like 150 gallons, maybe 175. Flange stubbed up inside of it, tank sealed, pressure flange, pressure lines, somehow to get the water from the lake to the pump. I don't even quite understand it. So I didn't feel so bad when they didn't either, but that's what's there. And so at least most of it's cleaned up. Arizona lift station. This has been a big one. We've been working on this for 3 years. So the final plans have been submitted. We had to make some adjustments. I got them last week, realized electrical and outside piping was wrong. He fixed it. He submitted them to DEQ for final approval. As soon as we get those back, it'll go out for bid. So we're hoping to get that completed prior to the next budget year. We don't know the cost yet, so that'll be the determining factor. I think that's really all I'm going to talk about right now. I could go on for hours.
Do we have a meter at the reservoir and at the treatment plant?
We do. We have mechanical
We can tell
meters.
if there's a leak between the two.
No.
Well, we've already
No.
determined that there isn't, because otherwise we'd lose pressure over at nighttime. See, and that's why what happened, well, Melissa was witness to us in December, the bypass valve, the clay valve that's supposed to shut off the plant in case it overpressures. They didn't shut off so that it drained the main line coming from Dee. And it took us, I think, 8 hours to reprime that line. And we just had to let it push the air out. And that's what happened today, kind of, is it wasn't the bypass valve. The plant, I tried to start the plant, it wouldn't start. So I had to do it 5 times consecutively. 3 times you usually get away with it. I didn't today. And then about 10:30, it was just solid air and you can't treat it. It won't flock, won't do anything. You just got to open it up and bypass it. That's why most times when you see these reports, like this one, I think the raw water coming to the plant was like 6 million, 7. Well, that's why, because we're bypassing until we can get clean enough water with no air bubbles to be able to treat it.
And can that data that you're collecting for the state be used for grants? Is that?
Yes, I was going to just say that is actually super helpful because that's kind of the stories where when we try to explain the problems that we have, they're always like, well, do you have some data so that will help us, even though it's a pain in the neck now.
At least.
I was going to ask, do you feel like you have a good way to keep it moving forward, like a good record keeping system now?
Yeah, Joseph's keeping it, I'm keeping it, and then he created a pretty good Excel sheet that we kind of tweaked, and I'm just logging every one I have as I remember, or as they occur best I can. I had to come in Sunday to actually send the regulator that notice because he wants it within 24 hours. So that's kind of the drawback. We haven't worked out the whole on the weekend thing yet, but I don't know. So far, so good.
I think hopefully it will pay off in the long run because it will be, because when I had to contact them for another grant where he had to write the letter, he was like, well, do you have they want evidence. So that's the thing. So
that's why he says, well, you need to have some violations. And I'm like, yeah, no. As well, when you're looking for grant funding, they look back and see what type of violations, right? And if you're having turbidity issues and you're not making your turbidity on your daily flow numbers, then it looks good. Yeah, well, somebody else can do that.
Looks bad. Looks bad to look at.
If you fail, they'll give you money.
Right, and that's the opposite of what it should be, but.
Well, but we're getting there. One other thing, John, I wanted to mention is if you notice that with the watershed sometime, send me a text because I'd like to go up and look at it too. And I like to wander around up there to just really understand it, so I'd be happy to go up there I mean, I'd go up with Aaron, but I'd also just go up and try to look myself and see what I can find.
Yeah, we need to do a field trip because the other guys haven't been up there. Me and Wade have been the only two, but something's changed up there for sure. I don't know what it is, but
Yep.
so I'm now kind of just heartened over the dredging because I thought that was going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
But at least.
Well, this is a new weird thing, so.
Yeah.
geez.
Now, could you get a sample and send it to,
You might be able to, but I think they're going to tell you organics and bacteria and stuff like that. They're probably not going to give you what I really need to know is what's in the water and why it only happens when it rains. It's suspect that it's tannins, but you can't have tannins all year long, right? They usually go away in the spring after everything's washed through. And then you see them in the fall once or twice during the heavy rains, but it's kind of been consistently now really red, orange looking.
Can it be a plume?
Yeah, I wonder if it's that there's this orange
It could be.
hydrolytic.
I'm gonna do some
bacteria.
digging. I haven't really researched it too much. I've always been too busy just trying to get the darn thing to get back on, and there's so many other things constantly going on that you get 10 minutes of desk time and 2 hours in the field and back to 10 minutes of desk time.
But if we could get some photos and water samples, I mean, maybe some of the rest of us can help you research it with the Watershed Council help and stuff.
Yeah, and I was thinking Laura Johnson might be a good source
Yeah.
too, since she tracked all of our turbidity data and stuff. She's been a real good.
Yeah, exactly. So let's
Source.
follow up on that and
Yeah.
I'd be happy to
might
help
find
with
a
that.
source and be able to do something before it comes.
That's what I'm hoping for, some type of pre-filtration or something.
Okay, well, thank you so much, John, for all your work, and please thank your
yes.
guys for all of the long hours that helps to keep our water flowing in the pipes. Really appreciate it. Okay, with that, we have the next report is planning. So we have a planning report here that our chair, Greg Thielen, submitted. Greg's here, so we can. This looks like this is, just to give a little background, Counselor Brennan and the Planning Commission have been working to think about what are ways that we can do better with enforcing our code, because we've had a long situation of code violations that we haven't really had capacity to enforce. And so they've asked some questions about what can we do is there anything we can do to do better with that? So, Greg, do you want to explain anything, or we could actually maybe just, there's a written report provided. And so maybe if people have questions and concerns, or Counselor Brennan, if you want to, yeah.
I'm a nickel back just for 1 minute.
Yeah.
We got the signs installed. Well, we got the signboards installed, one on Ray's and one facing the Idaho street. So there's nothing posted on it. I'm just waiting for the legal mumbo jumbo. We talked with Terry because we put it on his property and he said, anything you need to do, you do.
Okay, so
they're
that's for the homeless, the Raised Woods camp. Yeah,
Just
okay. Thank
Didn't
you
want to
very
forget
much.
it, but
Okay.
as soon as I get what you want, we'll post it.
Okay,
And
thank
Will
you.
that be posted on a metal sign or laminated?
Not yet. At this point, we just are trying to get information up, similar to what we were just discussing with the code enforcement. If the code is correct and enforceable, and like, for instance, the police officers, if it's posted, then they can say, here's the rules, here's what is something to point at to do that. Same thing with this, if it's clear and clean and the codes make sense, and then we have a process to be able to enforce them. So one of the first parts was getting a sign. So what I'll do is the verbiage that I have, I will laminate it. We'll have the fellas put it up in Spanish and in English. And then those will be up. As we have conversations next week, there's more folks that are interested in talking at the work session next week. Once that all settles out and everything's decided of what the rules are and what we're enforcing and how that's going to be, sort of rules of engagement, then we will look at investing in a metal sign, a more permanent situation. But until we know for sure what should go on there and really, settle on looking at this issue again and, working on it again to get the verbiage that you guys want, then we didn't want to do a permanent metal sign.
Excellent.
Okay. So I was going back to item 6E, which is planning. Counselor Brennan, I wondered if you wanted to say anything also or about this project or,
No, I mean, we're still kind of in an exploration stage of it and trying to figure out how to go about making sure that we can actually get some enforcement going behind this so that the city is protected, so that the police department is protected. So,
Everybody's safe.
yes. So, Mr. Thalen and I still need to meet one more time, I believe, with the, yeah. So,
I really appreciate that work. That's excellent.
so I have a question. I have a couple of questions that I was having here and maybe I'll ask them to start off the discussion. Greg, would you mind coming up just since you could maybe help us with that? Thank you so much for all of your work on this and so many things that you're doing. Really appreciate it. So I know that one thing that we were talking about at one point was the concept of having, our enforcement is always is complaint driven. And that some people don't feel comfortable, like, because if their neighbor is
Mhm.
Non-compliant.
non-compliant and vindictive or something, that they would feel uncomfortable making the complaint, even though it might be a really egregious situation. And so the other concept we talked about, like complaint driven versus prioritized enforcement, which would be the idea that, let's say we're talking, some of the three big areas that we've talked about are right-of-way violations, animal violations, and dark sky violations. I think those are the big categories where we get the most complaints. So that's kind of what we're brainstorming about. So the other concept is prioritized enforcement, which I think of as like, what are the worst three situations in town? And do we just kind of say, let's see if we can. And so I wondered if you guys, I didn't see that reflected in this discussion, and if there's anything about that came up in your.
Yeah, I can address that just my own thoughts, thinking through it. Melissa, we have talked several times, and so one idea is to have like some way that the public could prioritize, and that would take some sort of structure. Like I've had several crazy ideas. Everybody writes your favorite one and you put it in an anonymous box and then it's all collected. But basically, if the complaint system is absolutely anonymous and egalitarian, Melissa has said she is willing to look at the complaints and decide which ones are the most egregious to basically do that prioritization. When I first got involved in the idea of a complaint, when I first came here, and I thought that complaint driven meant I make a complaint and my neighbor is going to know who did it.
Yeah.
In fact, my neighbor who was complaining all the time said, "Oh, well, that's what they do. The cops just go and they tell them who complained." And turns out that's not the way it works. But if we had a complaint system that was completely anonymous, and I'm not saying it's not, but if it were, anyone can make a complaint. So you could have a team to go out and make anonymous complaints, and they would end up in the same place.
And then Melissa would verify and then say.
Thousands of them. That's
Yeah.
the problem. That's what we faced before. The anonymous complaint generates so many complaints that you can't keep up with it. That's why we've asked in the past was to, it takes some balls to stand up and say, this is the guy that's doing it, and so, or I'm complaining, this is my complaint, but
So they do put, usually the person puts their name or whatever, but that doesn't mean, so I would take those, but I would redact the person's name and the address and the thing. So the complainant information wouldn't go forward to this group or to whatever. And if I ever call someone, I usually call the complainant, and then talk to them, and sometimes they say, well, I don't care if you use my name or not, or yeah, let them know or whatever. But if they say, I don't want anyone else to know, then when I call the person or go look at it, I don't mention who has,
So it's
has
a
done the
communication
complaint.
issue. It's a trust issue between the management and the complainant.
As a general statement, that's how I've run it. Yeah,
So
most
they've
people
never
just put their
framed-
information on there and they'll say, please don't let anybody know my name or whatever. And
That's
so
my question is, that's basically anonymous.
But
to
is
the
it-
person, but they usually, most of the time, people who come and do it and talk to me about it, they're letting me know about it, so I know who it is. And then I go and talk to the person, but I don't always say, I don't have to divulge who gave the information on
But
that.
it would be subject to a records request?
That's what my
Yeah.
I mean, is there a way you can like redact it? Is it, Joseph is saying, yes, it's redactable in that case if somebody wanted a records request, let's say, of all the complaints or something.
Well, if it was all my understanding, I'd always want to double check this, but I believe that we would be able to redact personal identifiable information from the complaints because, we wouldn't give out someone's name and phone number and address to just anybody.
Now, I wondered about that, if legally, if someone wanted to come after the city, you want to know who that was and make the complaint.
Public
It could
record
be a-
request.
Yeah. It could be
Just-
public
it turns-
records, or it could just be
It can be
different avenue.
weaponized is what
So I think,
we've seen weaponized complaints.
I think what Brett's saying, is valid, but in today's society, I mean, we live in a whole different place than we did 10 years ago, not to mention 20 years ago. I mean, and a lot of us are different people than we were when we were younger. I mean, when I was younger, I had no problem just going to the neighbor and saying, hey, we need to do this. But today, you go to the wrong neighbor, you might get stabbed, you might get shot, or worse. I mean, it's a serious deal out there for folks. I mean, I don't know. This says on Forms 1 on page 15, also that including name, contact information on the complaint form is optional. So if that's where we're headed, are we just discussing it because we're trying to decide, do we want a name on there? Do we not want a name on there?
Well, I think the general gist of this is that we don't have a formal proposal yet from these guys. This is, I think I should have said this, and my understanding is that Greg has put this forward to say, these are some of the things they're discussing right now.
Yeah.
And so if we have any big feelings or concerns, this is a good time to say, hey, I don't like that the way you're going, or I'd worry about this. So we can give them feedback and then they can go back and refine it. And I would think at some point, either you will come to us or Melissa will come to us and say, I've worked with the planning commission or Joseph, and this is what we've come up with, we think is the best proposal, and tell us about it. Or maybe it's a matter for, I don't even know if it's a matter for, an action by us, because Melissa's job is to enforce the ordinances. And I think a big part of trying to figure out a better system, because it is overwhelming. If I may speak for you, I mean, coming in and out of the city office a lot, there's a lot of complaints that land on Melissa's desk, and we need to figure out a way to deal with them more efficiently. And
Like in
capably.
criminal law, there's A, B, and C. Can we classify, can we make classifications of ordinance violations?
Like triage the whole.
Yeah, that might help indicate which would be more, it takes that whole, well, that person doesn't like me out of it. You know what I mean? Well, that manager, she hates me because look what she did again and again. Well, if it's an A violation, then you're going to get it every time.
Well, and
Just a
that's
thought.
something that we were talking about, is having classifications of violations to make it easier. But we still, we're still kind of hammering all of that kind of stuff out.
And this is just one piece this is a piece that we've been working on, so I wanted to bring it so we can talk about it. There are other parts of it to flesh this all out. This is just the code compliance support team piece of it. And I'll mention, to follow up with you on your comment, one of the things that is going to make this system work is education
Correct.
and information from the city council. We are doing this so that the person doesn't just look at their neighbor and say, oh, well, you're now picking on me, or you're, so if the city council shows up and the media, it's put out in the media, the right of way and some of these are going to be enforced. I think it's going to take some of the pressure off of people saying, well, okay, I'll come forward. And
Ultimately, it would be that the city is seeing this as a problem and addressing it now because the council has decided to do that, and that it's not a complaint, or it could be a complaint or not. That's not the issue. This is the problem. So, that it's less of a burden on the neighbors, because it's easy to create enemies of your neighbors, and that's the last thing we want to do.
Greg, I just want to ask you a quick question. So this doesn't preclude, let's say, Officer Brennan going out and seeing
No.
a violation, and taking action. They don't need this specific team or.
No.
I mean, I'm really happy to see you working on this process, and it's really great. And the anonymous, I think, for people to feel safe in today's world that Tim talked about is very important to have that. If we can have that piece in here and legally, it stands up to, FOIA.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things I wondered about with this code compliance support team is, I know, there could be the concern. I know you had that happen to you when you were a citizen and you were on the planning commission and checking heights and things like that, that there's the opportunity for public education, but some people might not like you to be looking around on their property. But I could see a code compliance support team helping, like when Melissa gets in 10 complaints about something and she doesn't have time to go out to verify, like, is this really a code violation?
Right.
And that a team could go out and say, yeah, we looked at it, we measured it, or we did this or whatever. It's clearly a violation. And then that way that would be potentially a good way. I'm just brainstorming here for a team to help too.
And the education piece of letting people know that these folks are part of our enforcement, so they aren't taken, unawares. They know folks are out there. I think that's really important for what we were doing. We didn't let everybody know we were out doing all this measurement. That was one of the issues that I think is important.
And I think too, the education piece of this is also that we'll put information out from the office and those things, but also when this compliance team goes out and meets with someone, they're not out there with ticket books and they're not out there with nasty gram letters or anything like that. It's more like educating them on, oh, here's how, because the rights of way in this town are wonky at best, and they vary and they're difficult. So I'm out there with the tape measure, Joseph and I trying to figure out what's where, and it's like, well, but if people sometimes just don't know how wide they are or what happens or whatever. So mostly this team would be going out to help educate that person, not to drop the hammer, not to do that. But that's the stuff I don't have time to go out and do, right? To go take the time and because this is a big lift. And so I think that's the key, is not only is it the education from us saying, yes, we're doing this, but also when you see this team of volunteers come out, the first contact is not going to be a citation or a letter or a whatever. It's mostly, hey, here's an issue. We saw this. Here's how you can get this squared up so you can fix it. Because most people want to be good neighbors, I would say. And so that's also the piece of education that I think is important in this, is that if there's other things that happen beyond that, the checking up and the education part, then it's not this team. It becomes me writing a letter, and then it might end up being a police officer talking to them after they've been warned, after they've been discussions, after they've been educated and refusal to not do it, well, then that would be a different situation. We're trying to get compliance and to clear up what we're doing in a thoughtful way.
Any other,
Appreciate the work.
any other questions
I
or
like the idea of a group that
concerns or
goes out.
comments?
I mean,
Yeah.
and then so that would be a group of citizens or,
Mhm.
and then they have identification. around their
Absolutely.
neck and a hat or something that.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, if it's structured correctly, it would probably work. If it's not structured correctly, we had a group years ago. I can't remember if Hank was here or not. When we had all those thefts, somebody thought it was a good idea to form this committee. I think Hank was here, that would go out and roam the streets at night.
It was, but Hank just showed up.
And-
It was bad.
Yeah, that's a
I think it
problem.
got-
That's different
I think it got
spirit.
shut down pretty quickly because there was some pretty crazy stuff going on with the group.
This is not vigilante justice. This is not a posse. This
Well,
is
that's
not
what I'm
anything like
saying.
that.
If
Correct.
it's
We need
run
to,
Correctly, I
yeah.
think it'll work, but it depends, you pick the right people to do the job.
Exactly.
And the
that's one of the
retired law
pieces.
enforcement officer.
And we haven't talked about the training that'll be
Correct.
and who's going to be overseeing it and, yeah. So this is just a structural piece.
So another concern I have, I mean, I appreciate all of your work on this, is that I think we've identified these three, as I mentioned, the three areas that are the ones that get the most complaints. And it does seem like quite a lift to do them all at once. Do you feel like, I mean, I just wonder if we should try to do one at a time, or do you think we can do the training to do the lift for at least the most, like the highest priority enforcement?
rights of way, cleaning
Right-
rights of way are.
Right of way would be number one.
Yes.
And according to what I've heard, the number of complaints, lighting would be second and third would be animals.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think that's about
I
right.
think that's
Animal
fair.
control is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
That's a-
So one of our planning commission members who is very knowledgeable is actually in communication with, or she's reaching out to the county, the sheriff and so forth, and putting some other ideas to get the lay of the land, how that works, how that enforcement works, how it could work with our officers and what citizens can do, just how that's all.
For the animal part, yeah.
Yes, the animal.
Great,
piece.
okay.
And that was at Councilor Brennan's suggestion at our
Excellent.
last meeting.
Great.
So we're working on that.
Great. Okay. Well, excellent. I just, as I mentioned to you, I know we have like so many irons in the fire with our grants and everything that we're always kind of conscientious about overextending the staff, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Are you, do you really? Yeah.
I
No,
know, we don't, like, we have a control over what walks in your doors. I know we don't, but anyway.
But I think this is the priority that this council has said multiple times in the 2 years I've been here, is like our water infrastructure, making sure we're staying afloat, making sure our finances, making sure, so that's what we've done. But that doesn't mean I don't feel good. I don't feel good about our rights of way and our issues and the like. Like, I wish I had more time and more staff to be able to do that, but
All the complaints keep coming in,
They
whether
do,
or not
they
you
do.
have the time
They-
to prioritize, you have to
so
deal
I
with
try
them.
to pick them off and I call the people and try to talk to them about it and try to get more information. And, we'll talk to,
So we're
Hank
trying to
and
make,
Else.
we're trying to take
Yes.
some load off of you and
Which
make
I
things simple and
greatly appreciate more than you know, because it takes more than just a couple people to do it. And I am so thankful for
Right.
any help.
And I think one of the really exciting and positive things from my just being on the edges of watching you guys work together on this is recognizing that there's some kind of procedural things that if we could just get those in order, if we could refine better, what is it that makes an ordinance enforceable? What are the steps that need to happen so that when there's one of these things happens, Melissa is like, okay, here's step 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom, boom. And here's the paperwork and here's what we do, as opposed to having to reinvent the wheel and think, oh my gosh, how do I handle this? And
Then why make any ordinances if we can't enforce them?
Mhm.
so that's what we talked about at our last meeting on Tuesday. So we actually have now a list of how this all works,
Great.
how this all works, where the forms that are needed, who gets the forms, how, all that. So we're working on that.
So that's fabulous. So thank you any other questions for Greg? No.
Thank you all for.
Thank you
Thank
so,
you
so
so
much,
much.
Greg, and please thank the Planning Commission for their
Yes.
excellent work on this. Okay. Okay, so moving on, we have the liaison report. So first up is the Parks report, and I see here we have a written Parks report. Counselor Lovendall, do you have
I'll
anything else?
just hit a couple of highlights. I really thank Jim for being here and joining the Parks Commission. We have another, so we finally have a full
Hey!
and talented people. So that's good. And Lauren and Richard are our park hosts. And if you've been to Buffington recently, and I'll just quickly say, because I don't want to take too much time, that I had a woman who was from out of town and had her little toddler at the park. And I walked by and she said, you have a beautiful, well-kept park. Because I mean, the mini golf was all clean. There was, she was just so delighted. She says, this city has a great park. And so, thank you.
Thank
A
you.
lot of it is for your.
Thank you.
So on another aspect, we've worked with Rotary. We're getting things done through Rotary, and we're happy about that. But what's concerning to me right now has been some vandalism, and it's been sort of targeted at our park hosts.
Mhm.
And
Awful.
initially, they pulled out the electricity one night when they were there, knocked on the door. They locked the thing up. They did it again. This person did it again. Then the next time they were out of town, the person had to go underneath the back end of their RV to pull out, and then they disconnected everything. The gas, everything, to their home. That's their home. And so it just seemed to be kind of escalating. And I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's little kids. It's just, I don't think so. And they did some, and I don't know if they're the same people, did some serious damage to the mini golf and one of the trees. But I would like the council to consider, we have cameras. It might be time that whoever is there we have cameras focused in. Now, Mark Brennan came and put his own camera up in a tree, correct? But I think this should be,
Yeah, wait.
I want to catch them, but if it makes them stop
Right.
because they know. But anyway, I think it would be something that we should think about doing for our park hosts.
So we have a camera system that I've been talking with Corporal Perry about, because we have a camera system, and so have offered that was paid for by Parks money to do exactly this.
Yeah, and
And
it's
so,
the visitor center, right?
correct, it had been at the visitor center. They've gone with a different system. We now have this one. So I've handed that over to say this is for use for that.
Good.
Yes. So, and
So who's going to do that? Follow up and make that we get the cameras and.
well, they're sitting in my office right there, right in my office. So I can give you the box, and I think it even has the instructions in it of how to go about that. And we've been looking at how to deploy that and what to do based on
Mhm.
Wi-Fi, all of that. So we do have that ability, and I've offered that for this scenario.
Systems. I don't think that system's Wi-Fi capable.
Security grant that,
One that came
Follow
out
up
of
with
parks.
Harry.
It could be.
I think
League
it's
of Oregon
wired.
Cities have a security grant?
security grant. that you-
Not that I've heard of, no.
The
So
port
that-
special districts has one, I'm so sorry. The special districts has a, security grant that the port's taken advantage of many times. And so I'm wondering
Hmm.
if the League of Oregon Cities might have something similar. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll make a note.
Something as simple as a blink camera over there, if Wi-Fi is available.
That's the problem, is I don't think there's Wi-Fi at the arts building. So, and
There is not Wi-Fi at the A-frame.
Yeah.
That's
We'd have
what I've
to-
been searching for. So I went and looked around to see and
you
checked
got to set up another
bank records,
account.
and it's not.
But Buffington Bathrooms does have its own address, so. You
Yeah.
could do it And make something inside the bathroom, maybe in the ceiling or something where you could.
We're not putting cameras inside the bathroom, to be
Oh, no.
clear. That was not what we just said.
Not the camera,
Just to be clear, that is not what he said.
the Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Jeez.
Put a router and the DVR in there,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
the recording device.
that's what I'm thinking. That's the only place to hide it because it has to be in close relationship to their unit. It's either that or we put it in their unit and we put the Wi-Fi connection to them.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. We can obviously discuss it.
Yeah, we can discuss it. We're working on this issue. We've talked, we've had meeting, we've discussed.
We should
Right.
talk about that in private.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I think we need to just,
We lose the Wi-Fi.
Right.
It's an executive session discussion. item.
We have actually takes a photo during the time whenever you go Wi-Fi, so there is a law. But if we lose the Wi-Fi signal for us to direct support.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so we'll work on it. We're
This will
gonna-
be, we'll end this topic here and work on it within the staff. But, Hank, we were just talking, I don't know if you heard about all this like extra vandalism, happening at the park and, with our lift station. And I don't know if you have anything to offer about how communities are addressing.
Not right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just talking about it generally of like things, we need to be doing or can be doing.
Yeah, not on the record. My guys have been dealing with his crew,
Okay.
and actually some action was taken first thing this morning when it was really early.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Just wanted, yeah, good.
It's just it's a matter of concern, certainly. So it's good to, I'm glad to hear you guys are working on it, which I know, of course, you would be. Okay.
Indeed.
Can I just have one more thing?
Yes, please do.
They have maybe it's best to talk to John about this, getting a little electric lawnmower that Lauren's been borrowing from her friend and being able to get into areas and really keep the park clean.
That would be with John with Parks.
It's like $200 or something. So
I gotta look at their budget line on them and see what's left in parks. You're
Yeah.
coming up on if there's money there.
I
there's,
think you can
There's-
make that motion at your park committee.
I think I will.
And then that
Go
might
ahead,
be,
Bring it up.
we can see what's in the budget for this year. And if there's not, we can put it in. You can
For
bring
July.
it To the budget.
Yeah.
We're getting close, yeah.
Although
Yeah.
by July, we won't have to mow the lawn.
We're gonna be at-
Hopefully, right?
No mowing season here in a month or so too, because the grass is gonna turn brown,
Do that.
so.
Do it at our next meeting. We do have that in our budget. All right, thank you. The rest read about.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thanks for the report. And thank
So
you
could
to
I
host.
just ask, is there a policy that is trying to be, is there change or something is why these people are doing this? Do we know if it's to affect?
We don't.
policy? Or because that would be domestic terrorism. So it's just for the fun of it? Or
We don't
they're
know.
not asking for change or nothing demanded? Okay, all right.
Nope. Mm-mm.
No.
All right.
Totally random.
Have you heard about all the crime that's happening just outside the city?
No.
Lots.
Lots.
Serious stuff.
Okay, so we're not going to go talking about that just yet. Maybe we can talk about it at the end here. We're going to keep moving along. We're moving on to historic preservation. We don't have a report. I'll just mention I'm still working with Rick Cook and the tribes to do the installation of the Fort Point sign and bench, hopefully before the Run to the Rogue event, which is the end of May. So that's, we have the Chief Futch from the Coquel tribe coming down as with the historic preservation person, and they're going to look at the very specific siting and help us figure it out. They're going to.
That property's for sale. Do you know that one?
Yes, I am aware of that. Yeah, not our.
Not our right of way.
Not our right of way, but yeah, the place.
So
next door.
Ann, on that, I got a thing from Rick Cook today
Yep.
about a couple of things. So we're gonna volunteer a few hours to help him.
Oh,
I'm
great.
not sure about the city jail yet because I don't know what he wants, but I will.
I haven't talked to him. I'm just talking about the other thing. Yeah, but.
Okay, so we're gonna cut the monument down or something, so it has to be under a certain height. I just, yeah, it won't be a problem helping them.
Great, thank
so-
you. Okay. Next is the port.
I wouldn't say, we don't really have anything significant to report other than what I alerted to.
Talk into that microphone,
Yeah,
please.
what I alerted the council to last, my last report was some potential rule changes regarding whale entanglement and potentially some drastic measures, but those measures were not taken. The Oregon crab fishing fleet has been proactive and has worked with these environmental non-government organizations for years to mitigate entanglement. And it was quite a surprise. It was kind of a shot below the belt, to be honest, when they decided to sue. So things are being done, but not outside of what was already going to happen. So nothing drastic has occurred like we had feared. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
The watershed liaison report is included in, written down, so you can read that. And then fire, Councilor Brennan, do you have anything to report?
During the last meeting, there was, they're discussing what the fire department can feasibly do on certain roads that are kind of outside of the city. I don't know that it necessarily pertains to the city as a whole, but like one of them they mentioned was like Averill, was it Averill Lee? Averill? Yeah, like, certain, kind of like with our right of ways, if the roads aren't quite wide enough, then it kind of limits what people can expect within, fire response. If their roads are, a lot narrower or have any issues with, navigating because of sharp corners or whatever. So there's.
Isn't that supposed to be part of like the code when you put in your house that the fire chief is
So
supposed to
they're-
sign off?
It is. And so they're trying to, like, we're trying to give education and information for people. They're going to be working on the same thing with people in these more remote areas, I guess. So.
There was a property up Dee Dee Street that was, for years, they denied the building permit because the road was just a little bit too goofy, I guess. And I walked it. I thought it didn't look that bad. Pat and I did, in fact. But it was, yeah. So once, I mean, they should bring it back to compliant with that, the requirements of the permits to begin with, I would think.
So they do. So when they do a permit, they have to call
Right.
the chief usually is who does it. And so they have to get that signed off on. So that is still a current practice.
But does the chief follow the actual code of like the building, the road width or all that kind
There's
of
a
stuff?
lot, there's a lot of
I
just kind
can't
of art.
speak to that. What I
Yeah.
know is that when I see those packets come in, everyone always asks, how do I get a hold of Chief David Duncan? And you say, go right next door and he's right over there. And so I don't know.
The particular one that we went to, it had been, the property had been sold like 3 times. And each time the new owner was like, what, they won't give me a building permit. And it was kind of an art where a chief walked down it and said, we can't make this. And that was kind of it. So
Well, I'm wondering is it written down, Joseph, like what it is? Is it the chief's like, I can't turn the fire truck around, or is it needs to be 60 feet wide so that we can do a fire truck? I mean, is it like an actual, just what somebody happens to think, or is it actually a code?
Actually, it depends on the engineer, because like subdivisions have to be engineered, and they'll put in, that's exactly why you have a 100-foot wide circular turnaround in Tallis subdivision. And at King Street, all that was written in there by HDS, which was the engineer at the time. And I think there's something in our code that specifies it has to meet certain guidelines. So, and the county has a very strict rule on the width and turnaround space just for that garbage trucks too.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, they probably didn't in the past, which is why we have some of those places where,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
right, but the question is now they've fallen out of compliance, right? And so.
or they were just
mechanisms
grandfathered in.
I think you can still build. I think it's a question of whether you can get insurance or not.
This particular one that I'm talking of, they would not give a,
Well,
would
you
not
wouldn't
give a-
want to have it built, because what if somebody built next to you and they couldn't get a fire out, then it could spread.
Yeah, but how do you approve 10 homes up on a hill and you don't approve the next one?
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure they would bring that up in court.
Most of the time, when I talk to Chief Duncan about it, he checks the address to see if it's within city limits and what street it's on.
Yeah.
And that's usually all the research he needs to do. If there's an issue with it, it usually goes into the conditions of approval that the driveway needs to be so many feet thick,
Mhm.
or it needs to be accessible by a fire truck, and we'll get into the specifications. That's only come up, I want to say I could count on one hand the amount of times that that sort of situation has come up since I've worked here, though. And then if it's outside of the outside of city limits, we've had a couple people come in and ask, well, what do we do? Because there's no fire safety. They basically need to get a written statement from Chief Duncan saying, you're not technically within the fire district, but if there's a fire blazing outside of town, the fire department's still gonna respond to it.
But,
You remember Aggie Beach Road?
Yep.
Remember what they did with him? The county. 60 feet, 40 feet
Yep.
wide with a freaking 100 square foot turnaround space, or 100 circle basically in his, and they wanted pavement, but they allowed him to use crushed gravel, which, but that's for a lot that we split
Yep.
or
Partitioned.
partitioned. And because there was 2 little homes or 3 little homes down there. But yeah, they made this guy,
they need to put reverse on these fire trucks.
yeah.
Or should we be well, we don't have a fire district. I wonder if they should be annexed
You
into a
mean
fire
Tim
district.
Lowell right there.
Did he roll?
Okay, so, we're gonna keep moving on here.
Watershed.
We did that. Okay, so moving on to new business. We don't have any old business. Item number 8, new business. Finally, getting to the business of the meeting. So, as I mentioned, we have been working to remove this culvert. And last year,
John,
thank you, John, good night.
Hi, John.
We had we put that project out to bid contingent on funding. We got 0 bids. And when we talked about it at the end, we're working with the Soil and Water Conservation District on this project. They said, some of the smaller contractors that I think would be really good for this may not go into a competition for a bid like this because of the costs associated with it. And she had the thought that maybe we could just kind of do it more informally and solicit bids from a number of people that do this kind of work. And through the process of working on all of the funding for the culvert removal, in previous months I've described to you, it's kind of like I've had like 3 different racehorses going to try to figure out which of these funding paths is going to work. It's taking much longer, and we are going to want to award that grant so we can, or award the bid so we can get the contract and move forward this year during the in-stream work
put it on the
season.
Calendar.
Yeah. So anyway, through the course of all of that, both Business Oregon and Aaron said, you should be able to do an emergency or get exempt so we don't have to go back through the whole procurement process again, because we went through it once already. And so that's what we decided would be the most efficient to do. So what we have to do as a council is basically declare that we need to do this as an emergency, meaning we want to do it right away so that we can award this bid, so that we can be ready to move forward in the in-stream work season. And so that's what this resolution is about.
I'll make a motion to approve the declaration of emergency removal of the failing culvert.
I'll second it. We both second it.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so you want to declare it an emergency and then still no idea of who would be
Well, it's actually what we're doing is actually, we are declaring an emergency so that we can execute this project with an emergency procurement
Right.
solicitation process, which means that we get to, instead of putting it out to
Bid.
bid all over again, that we can solicit 2 to 3 informal.
Okay, but we
Um,
don't have anybody.
We don't have anybody yet, but we've been working with the Soil and Water Conservation District, Erin Minster, and she has the idea of like at least 2 people, possibly 3, that she is talked to about this and would like to solicit bids from.
None of them are on any of our commissions or anything like that, I'm sure.
No,
Right.
no.
Right.
Not that I am aware of, no. But that
What
would
was the
be,
question? I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was the question?
if any of the people that might be bidding on this, what might be on any of our commissions. And I said, I don't think any of them are.
Well, it would be not bidding then, even at that point, it would be just, we would choose.
Like an informal, we're still going to go out to people or ask a group of people, because again, we've already gone through the proper
Formal process,
procurement,
yeah.
formal procurement process, which bore no fruit. But this is getting to a point, because this has, remember, been on our docket for like 2 summers already, and we've got to get this taken care of. And so we're now just taking that next step to
I
say,
just wonder why we
need to-
weren't able to get interest from those same people without going.
Well, last
without
year,
Passing the whole process.
what I
that
was-
Keeps us from being dirty, you know what I mean? That's something that's been put in place to
Yeah.
keep everybody clean.
Right.
And that was my question is that we are still going to keep everybody clean.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think what happened, as I was trying to describe, is that, you know, an outfit, let's say like Knife River that does big projects. I mean, I know this from now that I'm doing all these bids and procurement things, which I've never done before, that like the big outfits have like a staff person, that's their procurement person, and they go and they, you know, buy the plans for $50 and they look at them and they come up with the bid, and it's like a big deal to do that. So if you're a small operator who is a person that just has a smaller operation, you might just say, well, I'm not going to do that because I see that these bigger companies are going to do it. And so what I'm saying is what Aaron's thought is it might open up a different set of operators that the Soil and Water Conservation District or the watershed works with, that would be dissuaded by that barrier of having to like buy the plans. And
So what we should develop a list of pre-approved emergency operators that we can choose from and alternate between them. And that's the way that you can do that and have it not be ever be controversial or questionable if you have that pre-approved list. That's something that's been done in the past. It's just actually the way you do it. Because
Well-
you won't randomly, so it's just is how do you choose then?
well, we will get a chance to choose. I mean, we'll get the
Based on what
bids.
criteria? That's the thing, is it just changes the whole dynamics of the whole thing when. I'm just saying, we want to be sure that everything, it's not always if you're doing something wrong, is if you appear to be doing something wrong, right?
Mhm.
So we want to just be real super clean, and especially we're going to be we're asking for a levy and all that stuff, and we don't want anybody to be crying foul on anything that we do.
Well, we consulted with our attorney. She helped us to draft this. We were advised that this would be a good way to
That's
go.
fine, but what matters is those voters at the ballot box. That's what matters. And all the other stuff aside, the appearance is more important than the legality almost when it comes down to asking people to vote a certain way. So our appearance needs to be just impeccable.
I
that's why
don't,
we're doing this in
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
manner,
I
and
hear
to make sure that we are doing it properly. I will say, even today, I sat on a 3-hour Teams call about prevailing wages and things, not for necessarily for this project, but you know,
But
as
for
we go
this
through these,
project.
for this project actually, to make sure that everything we're doing is above board and going by exactly how we're supposed to be doing this. So, yeah, so you're absolutely right, but we are definitely trying to do it in the most transparent, open way that we can, thus this process.
And actually get it done so
And
that
to
we
get it
don't
done.
fail to get it
We've done
done
it twice
after
and done
doing
it.
so much work.
Yeah.
For a couple of years. Yeah.
It's amazing how much that costs. to Do that.
There's-
It's crazy.
Yep.
Almost $250,000. Yeah.
To dig a hole.
Anyway, so we have a first and second. Any further questions, comments?
Crazy.
If not, I will call for the vote. Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Webb,
No.
Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
and Counselor Rask.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we're on to item 8B, which is, which we added, which is the police levy discussion. And as you recall, those of you who weren't at the last meeting were really lucky because you did not get to be selected to be on the PAC for the police levy, which is the, the council, 3 members of council or 2 members of council and myself volunteered to start a political action committee, which is the committee to keep Port Orford safe, to advocate for our police levy. And I wanted to just give us all an update about it because just tell you what we've been doing since obviously we can't all talk about it outside of this. So the committee has met about once a week. We have developed flyers and Councilor Rask has shared them with you so you can see them. There's one that's going to be a little one like that. And then there's another one that's going to be one side this and the back of it has what we're calling a personal cost calculating table. So you can figure out how much it's going to cost you. One of the things that we have realized in developing this information is that for people who have lower assessed values, it's going to cost less. For people in the middle, it's going to cost a little bit more. And then for the people at the top have the highest assessed values, it's going to cost the most, of course. So we think it's a fairer way to do it. And we've explained that in our materials. We also, I put an article in the newspaper this week, which you may have seen. We have yard signs that Gary has been putting out with the committee members that you're starting to see around town. And we have a website that we've published, which is called Keep Port Orford Safe, that has more information about all of this and has all this information on it.
What's the name of the pact?
Committee to Keep Port Orford Safe. And we have on the website, we also have an email address, which is keepportorfordsafe@gmail.com, where we're answering questions. I have scheduled a number of talks, talking to community groups. Some of them that want to have a talk specifically about a ballot measure. I'm just going to talk about a whole bunch of city stuff, but I'm going to mention this issue at the end. And we've made arrangements for 2 public education events on April 30th, one at 2 o'clock and one at 6 p.m. at the library. So I wanted to just mention to the rest of you some ways that you can be helpful to advance this and to help us support it. One is that I think it would be great if more of us attended the public education session so that counselors could be present to kind of show support for that. And I think that would require a notice, but I wanted to raise that, as something that I know has been done in the past, I think, counselors being present. Yes.
We have done that, but when we did it, we chose to pick, I think, 3 counselors to speak, I think, at the meetings, and the other counselors were just there for support.
Huh?
But a noticed meeting so everybody could throw something in, I guess.
Well, would we, if we did that and counselors were there, would we have to, even if they were there, wouldn't we have to notice it if they were just present?
It can't be a function of the city.
It's not a function of
No,
the
I'm just
city.
saying, so if you, I mean,
Can you say it though, like, does it need to be noticed because six count or five, more than a quorum might be at this event?
I'm not exactly sure how to go about that. I mean, I just know that any city resources, can't be expelled expended to facilitate this.
Right,
The
so-
city's position is neutral.
Yeah.
That's what the city's position is.
But if counselors, like, for example, I asked if it was okay for us to discuss this at this meeting because we don't have another opportunity for council to discuss it. And it's okay to ask for this to be at this meeting because our staff we're not asking them to do. I mean, to my mind, it's part of what the recorder has to do is help us facilitate our meetings, whether we're talking about whatever we're talking about.
Where are you gonna have the meeting at?
At the library.
Which is a good choice.
Yeah, because if it was the community building, we'd have to run it.
Yes.
That's right.
Right.
And I don't even, I'm not even sure. I know we did that one time before.
But that was a sheriff's levy, when I was working on the sheriff's levy.
Was it?
Yeah, that was.
Well,
Can you say the times again, please?
It's
April 30th?
April 30th at 2 PM and at 6 PM
Thank you, just to be sure.
are going to be
everybody has
the meeting times. And so if people don't want to come, I think our committee members will be willing to come. I just thought I'm thinking it might help us
Yes.
if other council members are there, or if we can demonstrate that. We could also divvy it up, and have some come at one time and some come at another time.
If there's a Rotary spaghetti feed and we all go, that's not a meeting.
But we are turning it into a meeting if we're posting it. So that's where it gets
That's the
sketchy.
question. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I'm leaning
That's
at.
the question.
Well, I've seen sometimes notices, like at the county, when they say, 3 county commissioners are going to a something or other up. Well, not lately, they haven't been doing things like that. But in the past, I've seen where bodies say, they're going to something and there's no business going to be conducted, but there may be more than a quorum there, or there may be more than 3 there,
It wouldn't be city business that's being conducted.
There's no city business being
Right.
conducted, yeah. So does that mean?
My experience would tell me that it's because it's not city business being discussed. But in the past, we didn't discuss it even in a regular business meeting like we are now. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that that's a departure from what we've done.
So in the past, all you've done is just basically, I remember last time Gary and I just did everything, but this seems like a thing where
It's a bigger push.
council,
There's more, and it's more complicated.
that you would think council would want to be involved with it. Council members, not council, because we cannot act on a council on this. So this time that we're spending is just to give you guys an update. It's just to share the information with you. I'll mention one other thing and we can end the conversation. The other thing, and to say you can ask questions if you'd like. The other thing that people could do to help, 2 other things are, if anybody wants a sign, you could ask Gary for one. If anybody wants to put a letter to the editor in the newspaper, I think that would be supportive. And if people want to talk to people, that would be helpful.
I think
So
if you put a letter to the editor, you have to put your name, not your title.
You could say in the body, you could
The
say in
reason
the
I say
body.
that, you just need to be aware of that. Any counselor that wants to write a letter, you're writing that letter as your own person, not as city councilor.
You can, in the body, you can say that, during my tenure as a city councilor, I've learned this and this and that, but it's signed,
I think
it's
you can-
signed as an individual.
I think you can advocate, from what I've been told, because I asked the Secretary of State, and it's very confusing,
It's very
I got to tell you.
confusing, And it's not worth it's a gray area, and yeah, you could get called into Salem or you may not. I don't know. Is it worth it? I don't know.
Well,
You're
then-
using your title to push an agenda,
Well,
the way I look at it, but Joseph has.
but counselors are the ones who are supposed to do this. That's what's so weird about this system. The staff cannot, but I believe it is counselor's job to do
Council
that.
can, yeah,
Yeah, Joseph.
if they want to. Sure.
I was gonna say, if you do submit a letter or do anything in writing, you might just want to end it with these views represent
Yeah.
my
yeah.
feelings as a private citizen.
That's all I
not
said, yeah.
Representing
Yeah.
the council of City Fort.
I think you're safer that way, but.
You just don't sign it, Counselor Webb, you know what I mean?
Well, and I'd say putting that statement also gives you a little bit of extra cushion.
Okay, enough said. Okay, and we're almost to the time. So does anybody have any other questions or concerns about that?
No, do we need to extend the meeting? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think if we can bang through it, we can make it happen.
Okay.
Okay, so I will just move on then. The next item is, and if anybody has any questions, I mean, this is the thing that's just so weird is, I guess you can ask one of us that's on the committee, which is Gary, me, and Perry. Okay. The next item is considerations, citizen considerations. So do we have anybody in the audience? Everybody's left that would like to say anything, except for our park hosts. So thank you for sticking with us till the end. Anybody online? Okay, hearing none.
Not seeing anyone saying anything or raising their hand or putting anything in the chat.
Okay,
I did have to mute a few people, so if any of those people would like to say something, they should type it in the chat or raise the hand now. And I'm not seeing any change.
okay. Staff considerations?
The only thing I will say is that the Port Orford was highlighted in an OPB 3 episodes of All Across Oregon. It was so wonderful to see this town, our people, like be highlighted, and for our businesses and our volunteer spirit. It just really was very, very, very well done. I was so proud. I'm so proud. It was lovely. So again, it's called All Across Oregon. There's 3 episodes of here in Langlois. And it was charming. So
And I got,
very sweet.
Susan got a report that there were way more people that responded to that and really enjoyed it and want to come to Port Orford than any other program that any other place that they had done.
Yes, it
That
was
was pretty cool.
lovely. So
And,
congratulations, Mayor. You were on there.
I was, yeah, that was really funny. It was fun.
Great.
And the person who really deserves the kudos on that is Kim Foster, really pulled that whole thing together. So that was,
Quite a lot to organize.
she had to wrangle quite a lot because I gather it was a last minute thing and town was closed and everything. Okay. Thank you for bringing that
Yeah,
up.
it
That was
great.
fun.
It was lovely.
Okay, any other staff considerations? None, hearing none. Counselor considerations?
June 2nd, I have conflict with that date for, that's port budget night too.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing it out there. I want to be sure I checked with the manager, and it is indeed on the 2nd. We have a budget hearing that night.
Okay.
I
At
don't
4.
know,
So this is at 4.
Oh, you're really gonna do that to me?
Well, I mean, you brought it up.
Yeah, that's how ours starts at 6 probably, so. Okie dokie. I can't remember, I just don't know exactly what time, but I'm just saying that there's potentially, I may not be able to make it to that.
Yeah, but you guys, do you
portion
do
of
that meeting in this space too, or do we have to make sure we're
Usually
not?
We
double-
do our special meetings elsewhere.
Okay,
Our regular business meetings we do here at the city, and then.
well,
any-
if you would like to request to change the date, we could try to do that.
Well, I just want to throw it out there.
Okay.
I don't know that it's at 4:00. Ours generally start at 6.
Okay,
There could be some overrun, in which case I guess I would, I don't know which one to pick.
I don't know.
Or maybe you go to both.
Go to
And
both
they
somehow.
just leave a little early.
Yeah.
Get you all.
Oh, I would
And
definitely
our
do that.
committees, everybody has kind of a budget buddy too, so there's enough people. So if you're not there, we could still.
I guess it
continue
just
to
depends
visit.
on where
Catch
the
you up.
fire is.
Yeah.
Where the fire, I'll go where the fire is.
Catch you up on the end.
Enjoy your port meeting.
Yeah.
We're fine.
That
here.
was that. And there was one more thing all of a sudden I just, Mayor, I spoke with you recently about our property, our
Watershed?
watershed. And that it was going to need to be named something. You were going to have to put a name to it, or I came to you with a request that we look into naming it something. And then I didn't get a chance to talk to you since then, but there was something that you said it needed to be named. You needed to come up with a name for it anyway, or something like
No,
that.
what I said is we actually had we came up with a name for one of the parcels, which was the East Fork parcel, which had been previously called the Wilson parcel, and then it's usually called by the person who owns it.
Mhm.
And so we had renamed it the East Fork parcel. That's the 160 acres that we requested. And you had mentioned, oh, maybe we should just rename the whole thing. I guess I didn't regard that as a request. I thought it was just like, just an idea.
I've kind of been throwing it around, mentioned it to some other people, and just to acknowledge and celebrate our volunteer spirit.
Mhm.
That was the thing, we volunteer, or volunteer for us, or whatever it is that we get, because everything we do is volunteers, everything.
Mhm.
And I don't know how, sometimes we get to pay tribute to an individual.
Like a memorial type.
Yeah, just, there's Coos County Forest, there's this, that, and the other, and maybe there's incentives to having a city forest might bring us that we don't even know exist if we didn't go down that road,
Well, we have, in the last meeting, we passed an updated forest stewardship and management plan. And one thing I thought about after that conversation, because it is a very neat idea, but the one concern that came up to me about it, and we could put this on an agenda item and talk about it further.
Maybe that's what I'm asking for.
Okay. Well, we can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other considerations? Then we have our next meeting is actually, this on my agenda, it's not correct here actually. The next meeting is actually next Thursday. We have a work session that is going to be about kind of the situation with our homeless residents and transients at,
Was there a death there the other day?
uh,
No, there wasn't a bit. Okay.
at Ray's. So we're doing that here next week at 5:30. It's going to be like it's a work session. It's it's sort of a reassessment of where we're at, how things are going as we're going into the summer season. We've invited some people to come and participate. We have Terry from Ray's coming, Toby representing the neighbors coming
What date is this again?
Thursday at
Next
5
Thursday.
Thursday. And
So
then,
it says right there,
I thought
April
it was
23rd.
5.
what time is
We
it?
had decided on.
Oh,
5.
this is my agenda. Is my agenda totally screwed up? This is what was in my packet. Oh, I'm looking at this. So here's what you're looking at.
I'm
Okay.
looking at the
I'm
future
sorry,
meetings.
I'm following this. No
April
wonder why I'm confused. Okay.
Is it 5 or 5:30?
It says 5:30 here. Had we said 5 instead of
I didn't
5:30?
thought we
remember
had
that.
said 5 initially, but
Well,
Usually we
I may
always
have
meet at,
typed it in wrong in my
okay,
calendar.
we usually meet at 5:30. So I
Yeah,
guess
we
that's what
kinda
I
leave
was,
things-
so we don't screw it up.
so this says future meetings, April 16th.
That's what I was looking at too, Tim. What they're looking at,
that's today.
it's a mistake. It's on item number 10 in the actual agenda.
Okay, so just give me the date I need.
April 23rd
Okay.
at 5:30.
I thought I had read the 23rd somewhere, so.
23rd at 5:30.
Yep.
Yeah. So we will have all those people there. There's a new group at End to End. There's new leadership, new people involved in that. And they may or will likely come and also present their thoughts and proposals as well. So it's going to be an opportunity to learn from different perspectives and figure out, if we want to think about making adjustments. We're also going to have some staff, hopefully some recommendations from staff or some thoughts there as well. Okay, so bring your questions, ideas, and everything to that discussion. No decision will be made. It's just a work session. Okay, and then our next, as we discussed, our next meeting, our regular meeting will be May 21st at 5:30, preceded by our first budget committee meeting. And Joseph, I trust you will be getting out the notice to our budget committee members and that formal notice that goes out regarding the budget committee, right?
I've already let the budget committee know that that is the tentative date for the meeting.
Great.
And I have it on my calendar when I need to notify the paper to get it into the paper on time.
Excellent. Okay. Well, with that, it's a little bit 5 minutes late. We're going to adjourn this meeting at 7:35. So thank you guys all very much.